All right. Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. I'm Megan Branham with Family Connection, and we are really excited to have Kerri Wikel with us this evening to talk about play. I think if you're going to have an evening session, play is the best topic. We're really excited that y'all are joining us. Just a couple quick housekeeping notes for you. Today's session is being recorded, so we will have it posted on our YouTube channel and on our website. So you'll get a link to that if you want to go back and watch it later. Kerri's also graciously agreed to share her presentation with us. So we'll be emailing out a copy of it after tonight's training. And we also ask that you give us your feedback. Always appreciate hearing from y'all after we do these trainings. Just helps us with future trainings and scheduling those, just to hear what's helpful, what information would be useful. So I'll be dropping that in the chat in just a little bit. You are more than welcome to drop any questions or comments you have in the chat. We'll try to get to them as we go, or if you just rather wait till the end and ask your questions, then that is okay as well. So without any further delay, I'm going to turn it over to Kerri for tonight's session.
Thank you, Megan. I appreciate everybody joining us this evening. This is the first time I've done sort of an evening training, so I'm very excited about it. I think it's a genius idea, as this is the time when a lot of us have time. I mean, the little time that we do have. So I feel very lucky and gracious that you're all spending in just an hour with me tonight. So thank you for that. Just a little bit of background about myself. My name is Kerri Wikel, like Megan mentioned, and I have been in an early intervention space since 2013. I've been working with children and youth actually for 20 years now. Gosh, to think about that shows my age just a smidge, but I've been involved in early intervention since 2013, and I was the state director for TEXT, which is Team for Early Childhood Solution, which is our technical assistance program for early intervention. I recently, ever so recently, as of October 21st, stepped out of that role actually, and I am now the Pyramid Model State Coordinator Director. And that is funded through the Department of Education. So if any of you know anything about Pyramid Model, or if you want to know anything about Pyramid Model, I would love to tell you about it. We're going to stick to play today, but you can always reach out. I actually didn't put my information on here, but I can send that to Megan to send out with the recordings. So that's just a little bit of background. And if you guys don't mind, if we could just take 2 minutes, and I'm not going to have you come off of mute. If I think this will just be easier to do via chat, but can you just let me know in what capacity you're joining us this evening? Professional, parent, both, what your role might be if you're coming to us as a professional, and just so I have an idea of what our audience looks like. So you can just get that in the chat real quick, potentially your organization or whatever entity that you might be a part of or representing. Again, just to kind of know where we all kind of are in our journeys. And I'm just going to go through these quickly. So early intervention, occupational therapy, thank you so much. I love these. Awesome. Yay, professional child family care. Great, 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 great. So we have a really great mixture of people joining us today. So it looks like early intervention. We've got some child care system as well as parents, which is phenomenal. So I kind of tailored this to a little bit of everything, and we'll go through the objectives. And then we will have some time at the end to ask questions. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you. But I'll kind of go through our objectives a little bit here so you can see what I hope that you will take away from this evening. So by the completion, I'm hoping that we will be able to define play. We actually going to go back for just a minute and talk a little bit about why I think it's important to talk about the importance of play. And I'm using that word important kind of redundantly. I apologize. But I think a little bit that our focus has shifted some, even in our even in our kindergartens, to to a lot more academics. And there's this group of us, I do believe all of you are included, that are saying, no, don't do that. Kids need to play, right? And so we just have this, I have this passion for teaching this very young early childhood development and showing, and that's why I love that there's some early intervention here and parents and child cares, because not only is play important for us to understand, but it's important for us to understand as professionals to then be able to provide that information to our families, right? Because really, we just want our families to be able to be the best versions of themselves and equip them with all of the tools that they need in order to have their child succeed. And so my goal is always to find ways to be able to do that. And another thing is that we know that children do not come with manuals. And so every child is so different, and every child's play could look different, and that's okay. So we're going to talk a little bit through all of that this evening. So we're going to define play. We're going to talk and try to understand together how important play is, including that interaction between caregiver and child to development, right? And we use caregiver because it might not always be the parent. It could be a child care teacher. It could be a preschool teacher. It could be grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, whoever it is. But that interaction between caregiver and child is very important and vital to that development piece. I'm going to talk to you about a few different types of play. These are by no means end all be all. I just picked a few that I thought could be important. They're pretty basic. And for this audience, it might be stuff that you already know, but it's really just good to hear again, because adult learning principles teach us that we need to hear things over and over, just like kiddos do, right? We never really learn the first time, second time, even the third. And so we're going to have some opportunities to watch some videos, participate in some discussion if you feel comfortable coming off of mute. Megan is here to help with the chat. So it's really up to you. I know it's in the evening and we're probably all tired of talking. So if you want to chat, it's totally fine too. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some coaching. So I'm excited that there's some early intervention on here and some child care. Is it even for you families? Just about how we not only want to model playing with our kiddos, but how it's important to talk about the why to our families, and then to let them practice with us, let them practice it. Like I said, kids don't come with manuals home from the hospital. And so, play looks different, and not all families know what play looks like or even how to play, and that's okay. I've been doing this for a very long time, and I have my own son, and I still question everything all the time, right? Because every child is so different. So it's important that that's why I love that we have this community that can come together and share resources and learn together. And then I'm also going to touch on very so slightly a few strategies that are starting to surface that have been very deeply researched about some strategies on the play with a child that has autism, or even some social emotional delays, or some social emotional developmental delays. So not necessarily geared towards autism. It could be some things that are coming up that you might think can relate to that, but it could be used for other things as well. So just a little touch on that. I'm not going to spend a ton of time there, but we have the opportunity to do that. And I am going to make sure that I'm keeping time, so that way I'm not keeping you from dinner or anything else that's important at 7:30. So we are going to define play. And you can see here, and when you get these, you'll be able to see where all of these resources come from. But play is defined as the work of children, right? It's the work of children. It's theirs and theirs alone, which I just love. It consists of those activities performed for just self-amusement that have behavioral, social, and psychomotor rewards. Play is child-directed, and the rewards come from within that child, right? So children don't play for anybody else but themselves. They play because it's enjoyable. They play what's enjoyable to them. It's very spontaneous, and it happens throughout the whole day. And we're going to talk a lot about unstructured play and how that play reaps the rewards and benefits. And then we're going to talk a little bit as we're going to weave through how that play benefits development, right? But kids get to be kids through play. And we're only kids for so long. And so we really want them to be able to learn, to explore, to develop a sense of who they are through play. Okay, so talk a little bit about the definition. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some time to watch this video about the power of play. And then we will have some opportunity to discuss just what you think about it. What are your thoughts? Agree, disagree? Yeah, so let's start there, okay?
Watch this scientist at work. What? You don't see a scientist? You just see a baby playing? Well, look again. This baby is as much a scientist as Albert Einstein. Play is how children test their ideas and learn new skills. Play is children's work. From day one, children are eager and determined to understand how the world works. Play is how children learn to communicate, problem solve, and get along with others. Watch your child at play, and you will see the kind of concentration, passion, and creativity that artists and scientists bring to their work. Think of the 8-week-old who learns about communication and the joy of close relationships as he smiles, coos, and gurgles when his mom talks with him. Picture a toddler using his body and mind to learn about concepts like in and out, and how much he is loved, all while wiggling through a tunnel. And then there's the 3-year-old playing pretend, developing her ideas, learning new words, using her imagination, and building friendships as she makes up stories with her peers. So encouraging your child's play is one of the most important ways you can nurture her development, and it begins on day one. When you show your baby interesting objects to explore with her eyes, you ignite her curiosity in the world around her. As your baby begins to reach out and grasp, he learns how things work through shaking, banging, and mouthing. She learns to push a button to make the toy move, or to stack one block on top of another. Play also builds your child's confidence and self-esteem as he learns to solve problems and make things happen. And in this second year, one major strategy children use in their play is imitation. Toddlers use their new physical skills and growing memory to copy how others do things. By the time children are 18 months, all that imitation leads to an amazing new skill, playing pretend. Soon children can pretend a laundry basket is a car, or that a blanket thrown over a table is a cave. So why is this important? The basket, the blanket, they are both symbols, stand-ins for the real thing. And understanding symbols is important because, for one, the ability to read is all about using words, which are symbols. Words represent people, things, and ideas. And in math, numbers are symbols for quantities. Pretend play also builds social-emotional skills. As young children make up stories and try out different roles, they learn how other people feel, think, and experience the world. This new perspective helps children become both good friends and good people. But the most important ingredient for learning through play is you. You matter. Research shows that playtime with parents helps children learn. How, you ask? In lots of ways. You build your child's problem-solving skills and confidence by giving him a chance to work out a challenge that comes up during play on his own. If needed, provide just enough support so that your child can accomplish the goal without doing it all for her. This lets her experience the mastery. You help your child build physical skills by presenting new challenges when you see your child is ready. And you help your child develop her ideas and imagination by joining in her pretend play and encouraging her to develop a story. Studies also show that when parents play with their babies, babies play longer and develop better play skills than when they play alone. And children whose parents play with them regularly as toddlers are more likely to have better math and reading skills in 5th grade. Most importantly, when learning takes place in the context of loving relationships, children become eager, lifelong learners. So the next time you sit down to play with your child, remember that with your help, as your child is learning to play, he's also playing to learn.
All right. Any thoughts about the video? Has anybody seen that before? And again, you can put it in the chat if you need to. Perfect. Okay. So I love all of your responses. Love this video. Everybody should kind of see it at some point. Yes, I think this is so great. And what I really love about this video, and I hope when you guys all can get this PowerPoint, is the resource. And why not show it to a family, right? Like it's just really in the last 20 to 30 years, I would say research is really showing the tenacity that play has in building those building blocks for academic success and successful social relationships, really strong, like they were saying, math and reading skills as kids move on in their academics. So focusing on play those first 5-6 years, it's going to naturally do that, right? And so I just love it, and sharing that with families really could help explain why we come in and promote play. A lot of times when we're in this profession, or when they're in childcare, when they're playing all day, but yeah, that's what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be playing all day. So it's a great way to try and express the benefits of play. So we're going to talk a little bit about the benefits of play. You guys probably very familiar with all of these things, but it's again nice to hear. But play develops communication, like we talked about. It's those building blocks for recognizing symbols, which leads to that recognizing print. My child knows what the Chick-fil-A symbol is. He's like, oh, there's a Chick-fil-A off this exit, right? And so all of those things lead to that strong communication. We've got problem solving, all kinds of ways to be problem solvers, even alone or together or collaboratively with your friend, being a problem solver. Getting along with others, that creativity, imagination. Again, I've mentioned social emotional skills a lot. We've got that confidence building. I love that video, or that part of the video where the little boy hits that little pop-up toy Just thinking about, I did something and made something happen, how much that builds a child's self-confidence. And then we've got that gross motor, right? We're taking risks. Well, why are taking risks important? It's going to build confidence. It's going to challenge their problem solving. We don't want our littles to take too many risks. And we've got those kids that are risk takers and ones that are not. But taking small risks is good for problem solving. Like, should I do this? Should I not? Natural, safe consequences, right? We're not going to promote anything that's unsafe. But those are sorts of things that exploration is going to build that confidence, communication, learning words through play. And we talked about the print. We're going to talk specifically about serve and return. And then we've got that fine motor. And again, we know that those sorts of fine motor activities can lead to some really great pre-writing skills. It doesn't end at stacking blocks and stringing beads. We can, be creative in what that can look like. And then again, we have our self-help. And what I wanted to really point out too is thinking about, we talked earlier about that play between caregiver, and they mentioned in the video, and child being really important. And that really is going to drive that relationship, the self-esteem, and that relationship building, so that they can then do it with their peers, right? Kiddos typically do it with adults first, and then they take those skills and then they implement them with their friends when they're developmentally ready for that. One other thing is that play can happen any time of the day, and we want to empower our families, and families that are with us tonight know that you might not always have an hour in the evenings to play or the energy to be able to do that. But there's certain times, like when we're changing diapers, that can be a time to play. When we're in the bath, we could be singing songs. When we're having breakfast in the morning, right? So trying to find those times of day that naturally occur and ways so that we can implement play into there, because there might not always be that free hour at the end of a long day to dedicate to just play. So it can look different, and it can fit the needs of each and every family. So we're going to watch another video. I don't want to overload you with too many videos, but I found this one to be fascinating. And for those of you that love thinking about the brain and how it works, if you're like big into neuroscience, this video is for you. And it's from Harvard professor. And he is fascinating. So I just thought it would be a great thing to throw in, so that you again have this resource. But if you're one of those people that loves brain talk, then you're going to really appreciate this one.
I'm Jack Shonkoff. Did you know that the most important interaction you can have with your child is through play? Building your baby's brain sounds a little bit intimidating. So step back and take a deep breath. Parenting is much more of an art than it is a science. I'm Jack Shonkoff, and this is my mini parenting masterclass on building babies' brains through play. The early years are important in terms of brain development because the experiences that young children have and the relationships they have with the important people in their lives literally shape the development of their brain. And that early foundation affects all the learning and behavior and physical and mental health that follows through a lifetime. It's impossible to overestimate how important the early years are. The most important thing that any parent can do to support the development, and particularly the brain development of a young child, is to get to know that young child. Get to be able to read that child's cues, get to be able to engage in what we call serve and return interaction. Serve and return is just like play. Another one, I'm getting better at. So this serve and return, you get better with practice. The reason why serve and return accurately describes what's important about the interaction is that it goes in both directions. A baby serves a smile, a coo, a babble, a gesture, and the parent or other adult caring for that child returns a response that is connecting to what the baby did. Baby makes a sound, you make the same sound back. The baby points to something, you look at that and you point to it yourself. That's the key. It goes both ways. The baby can start it, the parent can start it. The key is how you respond. Serve and return is not necessarily something that works the first time you try it, but the more you practice, it actually gets easier. For very young children, all important learning takes place within the context of play. Play is exploration. Play is trying things, trying to kind of figure out how when you do one thing, something else happens. Play is trying to develop a sense of mastery of the world. A lot of that is done by providing an environment that's safe and provides opportunities for learning. A lot of play, a lot of the interaction between parents and young children is in the serve and return category. I would start with making the idea of serve and return to be something that's easy and friendly and relaxing. Play can occur when you're feeding a child, when you're changing the child's clothing, when you're bathing a child. All of those are opportunities for playful interaction and learning between adults and children. To help parents understand that when you smile back, and then not just stop there, but then start playing, you're actually building brain circuits. In infancy with very young babies, it's all about interaction, kind of visual, sound. It's looking your baby in the eye, making that personal connection, being sensitive to your baby's feelings. Here are some things people may not think of as games, but they're games, they're play. Peekaboo, putting a cloth over your head. Where's baby? Oh, here he is. Patty cake. How big is baby? So big. The best kinds of games create a sense of emotional safety that allows growth. When you cover your face with a cloth and play peekaboo, the baby is learning. Why is the baby still laughing every single time you do this? It's because first it's the personal interaction. It's very rewarding. But second, the baby is mastering the concepts of things disappearing and coming back and knowing that they still exist. If a baby keeps wanting to do this, there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is that the baby's brain is saying, I am mastering this. I am learning a lot from this. I am enjoying the learning experience. Ask yourself, what does my baby enjoy doing? And then ask yourself, why do you think the baby enjoys doing that? And the answer always is because it is helping to build the baby's brain.
I love that one so much. And I don't know if anybody is familiar with the Lego Foundation, but if you look it up, it's a foundation and they do all kinds of cool, amazing things, provide Legos and toys for kids all across the world. But they also have a website that has a ton of resources. So they have you name it, they've got it. So there's like a ton of resources that are available for families, professionals, all kinds of things. Anyway, that's just a little plug. Don't mind me and my plug, but I just love that video. It's a really great one. Anybody have any thoughts about it or want to ask any questions? And again, you'll have these for your, I know I love neuroscience too. I just love it. And I used to not be a big fan. I used to science was overwhelming to me. So I've been more and more about learning more about it because it really all makes sense and adds up. And it really helps to explain the why to families. And so that's really what I love about it the most, is that the more confident that we feel with why these things are happening and why play is important, the more confident we are in letting families know that this is important and why. And so for all my EIs around that I have, and, all my families and childcare providers, being able to explain that this is boosting a baby's brain. So one of the things that I picked up too, actually, the professor in here talks again, and I'm not going to do his name any justice. I think it's Shankoff. He talks a lot about how play is important with a familiar adult. And so remembering that, we use caregiver, parent, things like that, but a familiar adult to a child or a baby is anybody that they are familiar with. And that kind of sounds redundant, but it's their teachers, if they're childcare, the length of the day, or their older brothers, or, anybody again that they are with and that's familiar to them. So it's important that collectively and as a community that we all sort of know those things. Another thing that I love that he pointed out is the repetitiveness of play. And I experience this, and I'm sure you all experience this, especially in your space, whether it's a parent or professional, both. Kids love to do the same things over and over. My child, even still, and he's just turned 5, loves to read the same books over and over. It builds confidence. And so when, we have these families that are like, all he wants to do is do this over and over, explaining to families and families that are on here, that's okay. They're learning something different every time. And that takes a lot to kind of understand. And it's like, I can't believe I'm reading the same book for the 20th night in a row. But those kids really are still learning, and it's building safety, right? And so when kids love to know what to expect, they love those sorts of clear expectations. And so when they're reading the same book over and over again, it's really providing them with that safety and security, and also that confidence, like, oh, I know what's coming, here it comes. And it's also really building that vocabulary, even though you feel like it's the same thing every time, they're learning a different word every time that you're saying. So when we have, and when we're in the throes of reading, what's a good one? Brown Bear for the 100th time. Feel confident in knowing that that child is still gaining a lot from that 101th time that you're reading it. So we're going to kind of move on. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, maybe we're moving into sort of our third objective. Is, before I move forward, are there any questions? Don't want to go too quickly. Just want to make sure there's no questions. I'll be happy to take questions at the end. I have plenty of time for that, and we can all reflect at the end. So I'm happy to wait till then. But if there's anything pressing, please let me know now. I'll give you just a few seconds, and we can touch on it now or wait till later. Megan, did you see any questions potentially now, or do you think we want to wait?
I think we're good. Everyone's saying great information, no questions at this point.
Perfect. Wonderful. Okay. So we are going to move into the serve and return. And you heard in that video that is pretty specific to that back and forth engagement between child and caregiver. So for example, and you could read here, at its core, serve and return is about responsive interactions between children and the people who care for them, and just how those interactions help with children growing and then reaching their full potential, right? So and you saw a lot of examples. A child smiles, the adult smiles back. Baby coos, adult coos back. Child calls the adult's name, adult responds. It harvests a great sense of security for the child, knowing that their needs are being met. And it also, again, is going to lead to what we can call scaffolding, which I'll talk about in a little bit, is just building upon skills. And so, that's what the, excuse me, that professor mentioned is the baby coos, you coo back, then give back and sort of build on the skills that already exist. And so I really love this, and it's simple to the core, and families do it all the time. I think for our people in our early intervention space, it's a wonderful opportunity to point out that it's happening, and to say, look how they're responding. Notice that eye contact, and that's that coaching piece, or that pointing out and that building confidence that families are doing these things. It's really that intentionality to say, this is serve and return what you're doing right now. This is why it's important. This is what this child can gain from it. What are some other things that you could do serve and return with, right? And so I think that's taking it that one step forward, because then maybe during dinner, that family is engaging in serve and return, and they're going to remember that from what, potentially the professional they were with mentioned. And then they're gonna be like, oh, I know that what I'm doing is serve and return. I'm going to build on that, right? And so it's really good opportunity. And again, it sounds so simple in its core, and it is. It is simplicity. It's just about being intentional and also relating it to that is play. Serve and return is play. So I really loved that strategy. Okay, I have something on this computer. So I'm going to show you, this is a quick video. It's only a minute, but just an example of what serve and play could look like. Or excuse me, serve and return. And also, again, a good opportunity. Feel certain, and if you're not, that's okay, that pathways.org is a great resource for early intervention, or anybody in the early childhood space. And their videos are great because they're a minute, right? You're showing 1 minute, or you're sending a link of a video that's 1 minute long. So it's just a great resource. So we're going to talk about imitation a little bit. Again, these strategies are beautiful because they're simplistic, but they're also great to be reminded of, and then to find times in the day that we are able to engage in things like imitation. So imitation is imitating children's play. It's their gestures, it's their words, right? So imitation is not just vocal. It could be pointing. It could be, you name it, imitation can take place. It is the building block for language. And again, language is how it looks to that child. Communication is how it looks to that child, regardless of what it is. Language and communication are much more than verbal. I love imitation as well, because it also can lead to scaffolding. And scaffolding is a technique where we take a skill that a child already knows, and we build upon that skill to teach them something new. So in its purest form, it would be something simple like a child says ball, and then the caregiver responds with a serve and return and imitates as well. So these could be used together and says something like blue ball, right? And so we can add on or red ball or green. I mean, you pick the color. And so that is where we're building on skills. The child already has one word. So now we're going to try and scaffold up to 2-word phrases, building upon something he already knows. We're serving, we're returning, and we're doing imitation, right? And so all these play skills can be used together. And then early in that can happen anytime during the day, right? Anything. Oh, you want more? More what, right? And so we practice these a lot. And then taking it one step further, pointing it out to our families. Oh, he just imitated you, or this might be a great opportunity to imitate. This is why we think this could be an important thing. What could you add on, right? So that's these strategies that we're talking through. So I'm gonna, I love me a quick video. So this is another quick one just on imitation. And again, it's more here so for your resources, but we can watch this quickly and then we'll move on to our last one.
Imitation occurs in early development and is a crucial building block to language development. Why are these skills so important? They will help your child develop social learning and new knowledge. A young child will observe a parent's facial expressions or sounds and attempt to imitate. Imitation is a form of trial and error, which allows children to learn through experience. It's important to children to have the opportunity to experiment with imitation of facial expressions, sounds, words, and actions. Children learn the sounds of language through imitation. For example, the infant will babble, ma, 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 and their parent will respond, mama. So children will experiment by imitating in play. For example, imitating shaking a rattle, banging a hammer, or pretending to cook or eat. A toddler observes a parent cooking and then develops early pretend play. Encouraging imitation skills helps your child to develop important cognitive, language, and social skills. This will prepare your child to learn from others. Imitation is a skill that may be difficult for children with autism spectrum disorder. Learning imitation is crucial as it allows a child to learn social skills through observation and imitation of new behavior.
Okay. Any questions or thoughts before I move forward? I know we're running, well, not short on time. It's 7:14, and I wanted to leave about 5 minutes or so for questions, unless we thought we need more. But I'll keep moving forward. Megan, please stop me if anything comes up. So those are, again, very few strategies of play. We just kind of pointed out the ones that, there's some really great resources and videos on. There's many more strategies that I'm sure you are already using in whatever capacity and space that you're in. So we could do probably a whole day on play, which I would love to do, but those are just a few. So if we kind of shift a smidge, and just, potentially for our folks in our early intervention space or in our childcare space or whoever space that would benefit, then we're coaching play. We're always wanting to explain the why, right? It's very beneficial that, or we know in our learning, the way adults learn is understanding the benefit and the why behind it drives us more to be able to engage in it and to be able to participate in it daily. Just knowing that the benefits at the end are going to, result in some sort of reward. And so that's important to explain the why. It's also important to model. I think modeling imitation, modeling serve and return is a great idea. And it's then allowing the space for folks to practice, right? Because we know our families, our caregivers are our children's first teacher, always. They spend the most time with them. And so that's where we want to give them the space to practice these play techniques and be able to provide that feedback. And then explore the family's already existing daily routines. And we've talked through this throughout, our time together, but finding times to practice within these so that we're not giving sort of this extra. We all know we're all here tonight at 6:30 gathered because we don't have time for a lot of extra things. And again, I'm so thankful that you carved an hour out of your evening to spend with me. And together, but knowing that there's times of the day that already exist that we can kind of insert these strategies into. So we'll dip into this a little bit. Like I said, I don't typically, unless you're wanting a little bit more, I sometimes just give a little bit of my knowledge and research when it comes to the potential barriers of play for autism. I, again, have some great resources, but typically autism is a spectrum. But typically children that have autism do have some communication delays and some difficulty understanding some social cues. And then there might be some peer exclusion due to some unusual interests. I can be honest with you and say that my son, when he was 3, was obsessed with sprinklers. Like, we would go around the neighborhood and find all the houses that had sprinklers. That's not a typical interest of another child that might be 3. So when he would talk to his little friends about sprinklers, they were like, cool. So understanding that those might exist. Now, sprinklers are cool. They shoot out water. They probably work we inspected, how they work and all that. And so it is important to recognize that it might be unusual-ish, and I don't love to use that word, but they are still learning something, and they're communicating their likes and their dislikes and learning functions of things. And so, I hear a lot of folks say in the early childhood spaces, unless it's really a harmful thing, really engaging in that, and then that's going to bring that security to that child and understanding that their play is important too. But all of these things can result in some play that is they're alone, and then that's sometimes, again, I'm never going to use the word always, and this is with every case, but that can result in that alone play. And so those are sometimes the barriers. So some strategies to think about would be to follow the child's lead. And this is sometimes easier said than done, because what we really mean by following the child's lead is following their lead by also being quiet in that space, and using opportunities to teach things like imitation, serve, and return, but also observing that and following them wherever they go, even if that means that we're walking around that room 580 times, right? But really allowing them the space to connect with what's interest to them, getting really on their level, and just engaging, even if it's a little bit passively, in what it is that's interesting them or an interest to them. And then using toys and activities that are on their developmental level or slightly above, right? So meeting kids and their families where they are. So thinking about a child that might not have some verbal language, are we bringing in things that maybe are going to promote that a little bit more, where maybe that's not where we are, right? And everybody does a really good job of that, but just being reminded that we want to focus on those activities and toys that are going to be developmentally appropriate for where they are, and maybe not those might not necessarily match up with where they are on their age, like where they stand at their age, right? And then potentially using, and I'm not by any means getting in any sort of ABA or anything that is far over my head, but we learn when we learn early childhood, even just in education, that there is ABC, and that doesn't necessarily just pertain to kids with autism, it pertains to all children when they're exhibiting behaviors. There's an antecedent, then there's the behavior, and then there's a consequence. And so we talk through some of those sequences and strategies on how to promote play. So I had the opportunity of working with a Dr. Sarah Edmonds. She is an associate professor at University of South Carolina, and she works in the autism division as well as the College of Education. And I just sat down with her and talked to her a little bit about the importance of play and in children, all children, even it also as well as children with some social emotional, social communication delays. And I just like to be able to share some quotes with her because her and I work very closely together on a lot of projects and grants. And so it's just a great opportunity to see what somebody that sits at a higher ed educational institute thinks and is trying to teach our folks that are coming up through USC. So for example, if a child cannot yet understand differences in color and shape, and this is kind of going back to that developmentally appropriate toy and activity, playing with a toy that involves sorting by color or shape wouldn't seem like play to the child. It would just be frustrating. So if we're asking them to participate in things that they might not either interest or they might not understand, we're really not getting a good picture of what their play actually looks like. So one of the things that her and I have worked on a lot together is what's called NDBI, which is Naturalistic Developmental Behavior Interventions for Social Communication. If you want some more information on it, I'll be happy to share, but it's direct teaching opportunities that are directly embedded in play. You could Google this. There are so many resources. We did a training with our Part C programs on this. And it's just finding those antecedent behaviors and responses in language, social reciprocity, and in imitation, right? And so there is the resource for you at the bottom of the page. And I'm sorry, I'm keeping track with time. And then just a couple more quotes from her. I'll just let you read through those. And then I'm going to leave you with one last video. And then I will open it up for quick questions if you have any. And then we will be done. And our hour together has come to a close too quickly. All right, I'll let you watch. This is the world's biggest play date.
When we get older and he gets older, we'll be able to look back at times like this and see how much fun he had.
I'm here in Pasadena, California, and the world's biggest play date is basically the funnest day of the entire year. This is in celebration of Little Tyke's 50th anniversary, and we are throwing a huge party, and as you can see, it's awesome.
We have 12 events around the world where people are coming to play together, parents and kids. We also have people playing at home with Little Tykes, and people will be posting. It's a global social digital event.
Oh my gosh, play brings out all their creativity and their love for each other. And basketball.
So here at the world's biggest play date, there is something for everybody, for every family. We have stuff for toddlers. You can see there's a ball pit, there's sports, there's basketball courts set up.
Oh, I need gas, Daddy.
If you're feeling competitive, they actually have a racetrack with custom cozy coops that you can race.
What's your favorite?
The race car.
The race cars.
My favorite is the race car.
There's Tyke's Town over there with playhouses all set up. It's like a little village.
Easy peasy, mac and cheesy.
And then what's really fun is they actually have cooking demos where kids can learn how to cook, and they have different foods and pans and all sorts of fun stuff.
Put it on your plate and
I think play is so important, not only for children, but for the adults too.
It just helps us spend more time together. It helps me understand what her creative needs are, just to help her grow more.
Because he is special needs, he have a lot of therapies.
and all the therapies all involve play. It's fun to meet new friends.
Yeah.
I think just incorporating play into your day-to-day life with your kids, where it doesn't have to be some vacation down the road. It's a daily activity, you know, keeping the family together, doing things that all of your kids can do, and this is certainly that.
It's a really great day to be out, and we're having so much fun. I wish this was here permanently. We'd be here every weekend.
If you want to check out the adventures of Little Tykes, showing families how to play and having some fun, go to littletykes.com. Find more ways to get creative and to play big with you and your family.
So the only reason I share that is because I just think it's so, I mean, that of course looks phenomenal and super fun, and, you know, something that comes around obviously very seldom, but it's just, I loved that they were able to interview just a couple of parents and or caregivers, and just to be able to give their insight and just see, you know, and I love that he talks about just it doesn't have to be this big vacation. It doesn't have to be this big, you know, and it doesn't even have to involve a lot of toys and things that cost a lot of money. Cause let's be honest, it's not always the case for everybody. It's just really those small little things that I think can connect caregivers to their kiddos, and then connect kids to kids. And let's just keep play going, as it's important, and advocate for play if your kiddos are in 4K and kindergarten and things, and just know that they are reaping the benefits, and that will be seen later on in their academic careers. So focus on play if you're birth to 5 for now. I even squeak in 6. They will get what they need. So if anybody have any questions, I will be happy to answer them. I will make sure that Megan has all of my contact information. I totally forgot to put it on here. I apologize. I hope you were able to get something. If it was, just sit and talk about play for an hour on your Wednesday evening as we get closer to the weekend. So thank you for having me, Megan, and I'll be happy to answer anything if at all. And if not, everybody have a great night.